have a wonderful parent base with the youth ministry as well. And I love them, and I feel like they love me. You can see the name God in the back right there, and that's scripture by David. God is my strength and my power. He makes my way perfect.
Welcome back to Ignyte Your podcast. I'm your host, Austin T. Gullett, and we're here to have genuine conversations with authentic people to help amplify their voice and figure out what ignites their why. Today's guest was born in Thomasville, Georgia, and raised in Florida. He is currently a doctoral candidate at Florida A&M University studying public health. He has spent many years working with the state of Florida Department of Health in various roles. On top of working in public health, he is also a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, a community advocate, a youth mentor, a youth engagement specialist, a youth minister, and an empowerment speaker. So let's go ahead and give a warm welcome to LaDarius Gammage. LaDarius, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm just happy to be here. Just excited.
That was a mouthful. I was like, damn, this dude does a lot.
Hey.
And I'm just thinking to myself, like, there's so many hours in a day. Like, how does he do it?
You literally sound like some of my coworkers and some of my friends. So yeah.
I thought I did a lot. No, it's just like, woof. I was like, let me take a breath here. Nah, man, but let's just hop straight into this, man. So what is your story?
My story, I know you probably heard it 1,000 times, but that is a loaded question. I'm just a young man who's just, passionate about life and passionate about making an impact. I actually was asked a question a couple of days ago, and it kind of shook me because I felt like it was kind of preparation for this. I was asked, LaDarius, what is your passion? Mm-hmm. And, it was an icebreaker, a team icebreaker for everybody. And, everybody kind of echoed off of each other. And what I happened to say was, my passion is to uplift and encourage people. And particularly with young people, I like to help empower them to do things that they felt as though they couldn't do by themselves, but they really could the whole entire time. My passion, and I'm going to say it one more time, is all of the above, but it's also just living to make an impact. Living to make an impact.
I feel you.
As far as my story, I think you kind of said it a little bit best. I was raised in a single parent household. My mother, she worked very hard. There was times when she worked 2 jobs. There was times when she worked 3 jobs. But my mother always encouraged me to get my education. My mother always encouraged me to do my best. I can remember her coming home some nights at 8:30 p.m. And before she went to bed, she made sure we went through my social studies, my language arts. I'm going way back, these old terms, and made sure that I completed all these different things. So growing up, I think the epitome of my story is I realized what I didn't have. I realized what I wanted to always seek. And now I feel like I'm in a position where I can help others have what I did not have or felt as though I did not have. So now I try to make sure that I fill that gap and do my part to make my community better.
I think it's always interesting how our childhood and our experiences relate to what we do in life sometimes. I think it's very similar to me. I was exposed to a lot as a child just for the area I grew up in. Very underserved community and so many different walks of life. I tell people all the time I was very fortunate that I didn't go through a lot of the things that I was like exposed to, but it definitely makes you look at life differently. And I kind of want to touch a little bit on your upbringing a little bit because I mentioned in your bio you were born in Georgia, but you were raised in Florida. And with a single mom, moving around, was that a common theme for you? And how did you end up in Florida?
Yeah, well, I got quite a bit of a story. Like my parents, my mom and my stepfather, they were in the military, they were in the Navy. So when my mother moved back to Georgia, we lived in Cairo with my grandmother. And my mother began to work in Tallahassee. So we moved back to Cairo when I was 7 years old. My mother began to work in Tallahassee. She began to drive back and forth and whatnot. And then around the time when I got into the fourth grade, my mother said, hey, I don't feel like driving back and forth anymore because that is a long drive, especially at nighttime.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
So my mom said, you know what? I just think that, it's best that I move down here to Tallahassee. And so my mom kind of gave me the option like that.
Hmm.
It's kind of funny. Like I was one of those kids that was given options sometimes and not given options at the same time. But my mother gave me the option to live with my grandmother or move down with her. And so I lived with my grandmother for probably like another 2 or 3 months. And I was just like, nah, I want to live with my mother. So then I moved down to Tallahassee in fourth grade around the fourth quarter. Um, so we didn't move around too much. You know,
Hmm.
we moved around to different houses here. Yes, of course, in Tallahassee, but I don't know if too many people are familiar. Not a lot of people are familiar with what goes on in a single parent house. It's a lot more structure. It's a lot more teamwork. It's a lot more working together. It's a lot more conversations. I'll never forget one day my mom came in from work and said, Darius, it's me and you against the world. And I literally remember that day. I'm not going to tell on myself because I had a bad day. I had a I had a bad day at school that day, and there was something in my backpack that she needed to see, but I kept it to myself. But I remember that conversation very thoroughly, and I look back now and like I everything that I'm doing now, working with youth, working with kids, in the community and stuff like that, and I
Hmm.
always turn around. And I just randomly thank my mother now. And my mom's like, Darius, why are you thanking me? Like, it's Thursday at this point. I probably don't thanked her like 4 times this week. She's like, why are you thanking me? I'm thanking you because, mom, you always uplifted me. You always poured into me when you had nothing. You always told me, do this, do that, always be, the bigger person. Even now, she encourages me to be the bigger person. And so, like, now, me and my mom, we have this strong connection. My mother and my stepfather are back together. Uh, so like now me and my stepfather, we have this wonderful connection as well. And I love it. But like, just those years of just being with your mother, being in that single parent environment, it will do something. And it's important, and I just want to, just in case there are any single parents listening to this right now, what you say to your child plants a seed in your child. So I just, pray that people
Hmm.
continue to plant them positive seeds in their child because when they get around my age, or maybe not all the way to my age, they'll turn back and come back to you and say thank you.
I don't think parents truly realize the impact they have on their kids,
Mm-hmm.
just like with the words they say and things of that nature. And I feel a lot of parents have the best intentions. And I'm not saying like there's a right way or wrong way to parent. I'm not a parent myself. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
But it's like it's when you get older in life you realize some of the effects that you do have, and your mom instilled great values in you. And one, thank you for her service if she listens to this, so thank you. But I think it goes a long way to, one, she showed you what it means to kind of put in the work, right? She's a hard worker, and those are values that are kind of passed off to kids. And I don't I say it all the time is like parents play a huge role. And even if it's not your parent, it's adult figures in life. And I think that's kind of why I've always wanted to be a positive influence for kids, is
Mm,
kind of just I could be that influence, because you never know what people go through, especially at home, especially when you're working in underserved communities. It's You don't know what their home life is like. And I tell people when I was working in the school systems is I wanted to make this a safe
yeah.
place. Whether this was the safest place for 2 hours, I wanted the kids to feel like they were comfortable and that they were safe. And I think that's the biggest thing. And it's inspiring to hear people's stories and the impact your parents and just other people have on you as kids. And I'm curious now, because I'm thinking about it. You said it took you about 2 or 3 months to decide to go live with your mom
Yeah.
again. Why did it take you so long? Why did it take you so long?
I mean, I love one thing, I love grandma. Hey, listen. God bless the dead. Rest in peace, grandma. But I love Thelma. I mean, if I was to pull up a picture right now, you swear that was my twin. I had a great time with my grandmother, but at the same time, you just say, I miss my mom. Like you see your mom on the weekends and stuff like
Yep.
that versus seeing your mom every day. You're like, I miss my mom. Um, but also, I relate to you. I relate to you when you were saying about making a safe space for these young people because you know you'll be surprised. Like me, when I was working at the state and I was working as a statewide youth advocacy coordinator for the Bureau of Tobacco Free Florida, it shocked me. It shocked me that like at a tobacco club, a youth tobacco prevention club, young people will come and they want to feel like they're at home. They'll
Mhm.
come, they'll be looking for advice, they're looking for someone who understands them. And it shocked me for a while, but then as the leader, as the mentor, and I'm sure you can understand as the educator, you have to get out of that state of shock and you have to start doing something about it. And then, like, what do you do? Even now, as a youth minister, what I try to do is, I try to make the environment fun. So they don't just think
Mhm.
about the environment in one context, like, hey, we just came here to learn about scriptures and, our Lord and Savior, or we came to learn about tobacco and why we shouldn't do it. But no, like, we're going to make it fun. We're going to make it feel like every time you come here, it's a party. And I noticed when we began to
Yep.
do that, I saw how you nodded to that. I noticed how when we began to
Yeah.
do that, like we're finna celebrate you every time you come in the door. Like we're finna have on these big smiles. We're finna hug you. We're finna embrace you. I noticed after a while the kids felt so comfortable where they let down their guard. They began to tell us stuff. And then it became a part of my job to not only get out of that shock and listen, but also find ways to tie the work that we're supposed to be doing to the person so the person can shine the way we want the person to shine and feel comfortable the way they want to feel.
And that's really the hardest thing to do when working with kids, because you come in and they're going to test you. They're gonna push your buttons. They're gonna try to get under your skin. But I think it takes a lot. It takes a ton of patience, a ton of patience.
Mm,
And I think the biggest thing is having consistency. Right? You want to be consistent, and you want to show up every single day and show them I'm here for you.
mm-hmm,
And if they can buy into whatever you're trying to do, it is night and day, and it's not easy to do, but I think the biggest thing is for them to be seen and heard, because a lot of times in your space, that's their safe place.
mm,
And you might not realize it's their safe place, but if you're not showing up every single day trying to make them feel heard and seen,
mm-hmm,
then you're doing a disservice to them, because there's so many things that go on in the outside world and you never know what a kid is going through. And it's just showing that empathy, showing them that, like, hey, I'm here for you.
yeah,
And I don't care what it is. It might not be, I coach soccer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I try to relate everything to like kind of life. And I tell people, it's like, I'm not here just to teach you how to play soccer. I'm here to teach you life skills and prepare you to be a better man in the long run. But it's just, when you show up, you have to make sure no matter what you're going through personally, you put it aside, because for this, however long you have, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour,
Mm-hmm.
they deserve everything that you got. And it just, I think educators and people who work with the youth don't get enough credit. People think it's kind of easy, but it's so hard. It is so hard.
I definitely I definitely pray for teachers more now. I
Hmm.
definitely pray for school lunch ladies, lunch men, whatever, custodians, because the
Hmm.
work that they do is really a ministry now. Because everybody that comes in contact with our young people when they're not in our, when they're not in our presence, is, they're an angel on our behalf. They're a care worker on our behalf, for our young people. So I completely understand that. And just to add one more thing that you just said, when you working with young people, because I've been doing a lot of different trainings on mental health and suicide prevention. Uh,
Hmm.
Pay attention to the jokes. Pay attention to what they're saying and what they're not saying, because they could be smiling, but what they're saying is something else, and if we don't catch it, we miss them. And sometimes it be that one little thing, that one little wiggle in your ear, like, wait a minute, and then we have a conversation, and it leads to so much more. And so, yeah, I love it. I love it. I just love it.
It's the little things.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to the little things because I'm telling you, there's so many times where I've had conversations with kids and I'm just like, something's off. Like you're not
Mm-hmm.
yourself today. Like what's going on? And when you spend time with these kids, you understand their tendencies and their habits and their personalities. And when Johnny is not Johnny, I
Mm-hmm.
know, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it sometimes we get lost. And I think with everything that's been transpiring in the world over the last 4 years, with COVID and everything else, it makes you kind of want to pay attention to the details a little bit more. I know that it has for me, at least, because it's one of those things where we can just get lost and not truly understand, like, the thing that matters the most is these kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we have, I mean, you said it. We have to tell them. Um, we have to tell them that stuff too. One thing I did notice, good God Almighty, I keep forgetting to put the picture back up, but it was like this kid. I don't want to say his name because he's doing big things now, up in like the northern parts of the United States. But oh, it's over here now. That's why it ain't over there. It's in front of me. So he used to like. There's a picture of this young man, and he's hitting me with a water balloon, right? And the smile he has on his face is so Kodak picture perfect. But if I told you the reason why he's probably smiling is because I had gave him a whole bunch of water balloons, and I told him to hit me. And I was running, I was shaking and baking. I was running around for an hour. They could not hit me. I was slipping and sliding and everything. But the rewind, why this picture means so much to me is because when I first got on with the state, and I first became like the youth advocacy coordinator, this young man gave me headaches. he
Those are always the ones you love the most.
he tested me. He tried me to every inch and bit of my patience and my wherewithal. He tried, but I kept coming
Hmm.
back, and it was like it was a situation where I think we were having elections, and he was the president one year, but then the next year they voted him as the vice president, and like I guess it did something to him. It made him feel some type of way. Of course, it would make any of us feel some type of way.
Right.
And he was hurt, and everybody could see it. Um, and it got to the point where he distanced himself and he went off somewhere to cry, and uh, who had to go talk to him? No one
Because they
else wanted to
needed.
talk to him. They sent the guy he had been testing for like 3 to 4 years to go talk to him. And like I went and spoke to him, and I'll never forget the conversation. He was crying, and he said, something about a failure. I'm not going to tell you everything. He said something about a failure.
Right.
And I said, sir, these people just voted you to be their vice president for this upcoming year. Do you feel like they think you're a failure? He said, no, sir, Mr. Gammage. I said, do you think I feel like you're a failure? He said, no, sir, Mr. Gammage. Do you think you're a failure? He said, no, sir, Mr. Gammage. And I said to him, what I need you to do right now is to go wipe your face, wash your face, get it all out. But when you come back, I need the best version of you. I need that smile that I always see. I need all of that. Like even right now, I'm getting goosebumps telling you the story. I said, I need
Hmm.
all of that. And when I tell you, from that point on, every time I saw this young man, whenever I needed something done, I would look at he'd be right here tapping me. I can do it. I can do it. I'm like, what? Whenever I'm going to do something, everybody, I told the whole room, I'm finna go do it with you, Mr. Gammage. And it's just like, I mean, we out here walking in the woods in the dark, can't see nothing, but he's finna go out here and light a fire with me. And I say that story to say to you, whoever's working with young people or whatnot, they're testing you to see if you're real. Because I really feel like we're
Mm-hmm.
living in a world right now where not everybody's is authentic as they say they are. Not everybody is who they say they are. I don't even want to say 24/7. They're not even themselves 18 hours of the day, the person that they portray, 18 hours of the day. And these young people are watching. They want a mentor. They want to
Mm-hmm.
they want a real life Batman. They want a real life Superman and Spider-Man, right? And the closest person they
Right.
got is, you, Austin, or me. And we have to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that we, be that person that they can depend on, they can look up to. And like, it's important because I felt like it was just a normal day. But that moment, I guess, was a defining moment to where that young man felt like he could trust me. And from that point
Mm-hmm.
on, he made it seem like we had all these traditions together. And I'm just so glad that I had that moment with him.
But that's how kids are. And I think all it takes is that one moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they push your buttons because they want to know, like, are you going to stick around?
Mm.
And when you have that sense of vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
in that moment to show, like, hey, like, I'm here for you, that's all it takes. And I understand it because I've been in that situation with multiple kids where it's just a lot of kids are just looking to be seen and be heard. And when you validate them and you're like, hey, I'm rocking with you,
Yeah.
regardless of whatever's going on. Like, yeah, going off of the conversation you just had, like the story you just told is, yeah, you wanted to be president, but just because they didn't vote you president
Right.
doesn't mean you aren't good enough, right? They obviously think highly of you enough to vote you in this position. And I think that's the thing is sometimes we're harder on ourselves than what other people are on us. And I think that's the thing is when you have your mind set on a certain thing, you can see it as like, I failed. But in reality,
You win.
you learned,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're learning. In that situation is you're learning. And I think the biggest thing is you being there for him just showed him that, hey, like I can be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
to I can trust you, and three, I know you got my back. And when you do that for a kid, that itself will go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he was attached to you, because he's like, Mr. Gamage is rocking with me. And I know that. You know what I
Hey.
mean? And that's the thing is when you have that one person who believes in you,
Mm-hmm.
it it changes things night and day.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time is you just have to give these kids attention and believe in them and show them, not just tell them. I think that's the thing is I can easily tell a kid
Mm-hmm.
like I believe in you, but showing up and actually being there for that kid is a completely different
You preaching the gospel, brother.
story.
You are preaching the gospel. And I think the best thing you just said is be there. Sometimes you don't have to talk, just be there. Mm-hmm.
hmm Being present goes a long, long way. But I kind of want to move on to the next segment here because it's the biggest chunk of the
Yes, sir.
podcast. So, my question for you is what is it that inspires you? But most importantly, what is it that ignites your why?
Uh, Goodness gracious, I have a lot of different things that inspire me. I think we already heard about my mother. She she inspires me. My family inspires me. As I said, I'm a youth minister. You can see the plaque in the back. I have a wonderful church family at First Missionary Baptist Church. I have a wonderful youth advisory board with the youth missionary, the ministry. I have a wonderful parent base with the youth ministry as well. And I love them, and I feel like they love me. You can see the name God in the back right there, and that's scripture by David. God is my strength and my power; He makes my way perfect. You can see my fraternity right there, surrounded by those men. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Iron sharpens iron." You can see some pictures in that top pink up there in the corner. It says, "Thank you, LG," and it has all these wonderful messages on it. I just, I don't know. Like my inspiration is just to be the best person I could be. You know, to be the make an impact in the way I can be. Make sure that like how you said underserved populations, those, and sometimes our young people are the biggest underserved population. I want to make sure that every child feels heard. When I
Mhm.
lead my youth groups, I don't just listen to the kids that's always got something to say. I want to hear from the quietest person in the back of the room because from my time at the state, I realize sometimes it's the quietest person in the room that has all the solutions and all the skill sets that we're not even tapping into. We built some of our platform for a statewide youth campaign off of what the quietest person in the room had to say. I want to make sure the quiet people get heard. I want to make sure the underdogs get appreciated. I want to make sure that everybody.
As a quiet person, I appreciate that.
I'm doing it
I
for
was that
you,
quiet
Austin.
kid.
I'm doing it. So
I was like, as a quiet kid, I appreciated it
yeah,
because I was the kid that just never said anything.
I want to make sure that all of them get heard because I'm saying quite a bit, but it's just so much meat on this bone. Like I like Black History Month. I love Black History Month, of course. I'm a little bit biased for some reason. I can't tell you why. I don't know. But my grandmother always says to me that we focus so much on like what two or three people did instead of taking the time to highlight other stories of what other people did. And that's one way to feel about a particular month observance, right? But let's take
Mhm.
that view about that month observance and apply it to different aspects of our life. I want to hear what the quiet people have to say because when I do that, I'm not just getting them to talk, I'm getting them to ignite their why. I'm getting them to grab their future. I'm getting them to take ownership of what they feel like they can do with their destiny. And so I feel like I'm the product of a village. I feel like I had a lot of people
Mhm.
there who weren't really my real uncle that I call uncle. I had a lot of community fathers. I had a lot of community mothers, aunties. I had a lot of community family, and they built me up. And while I'm still in this age group, and obviously people tell me I have a calling with working with kids because they said when I get around kids, I act super young. They said, you can get lost in the room. I want to use this mind that I did not have at 17, 16, 15, 13, or
Mhm.
whatever. And I want to it help people that's out at that age so that they can hit the ground running and they don't feel like they have any disadvantages holding them back. If anything, I want to make sure that I leave footprints where other people can follow and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm not going through anything too extreme because you know what? My mentor, Mr. Gammage, went through this. He told me all about this. Because when we think about it, it's those testimonies that we get from our mentors that help us get through those tough patches and rough patches in our lives.
Mhm. It's it. I'm like trying to find the words because I just think back to like my mentor myself. Shout out to Tom. I wouldn't be the man I am today without him,
Yeah.
right? And it's because like he was always there for me, and he has shown me and paved a path for me for success.
Mm.
And I tell people all the time is every student, every child has a promising future, regardless of their socioeconomic
Yeah.
status, the their gender, their race, none of that matters.
Mm.
Every kid has a promising future. It's just we as individuals have to give them the resources
Right.
they need to be successful. And I think that's the work that you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned how you just want to give back and show these kids that it is possible. And if you would have known this stuff at 17, 18 years old, life would be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you is what advice would you give your 17-year-old
Oh
self?
my gosh. You just had to hit me with that. Oh, let me. Ooh, I don't have a pocket full of answers. What I would tell myself is find that person you want to be. Figure out that person you want to be and why you want to be that person.
Mhm.
And once you figure out that person you want to be and why you want to be that person, that's you already looking at yourself. Then take the next step, go interpersonal. Find the people, not just the person, the people that align with the person that you want to be. Because we become who we listen to. We become who we
Mhm.
surround ourselves with, right? Then level three. What can you do to make some of that stuff that you've been thinking about into reality? And that's why I'm in the community. Start thinking of ways that you can help out your community while helping yourself. Find good books that connect with you. Find hobbies that build up the best in you. Find the places that you want to go. Start thinking about your future. Don't obsess about your future, but slowly plan about your future. And then at the same time, I will also tell myself is learn good coping strategies, because whenever you're giving 110%, that means you have to cool down, recharge, and
Hmm.
get back ready for the next day or next week. So I would tell myself, figure out ways where you can just calm yourself down, release everything, be at peace, and get back up. And the last piece that I'll tell people is find people that's going to love you at your lowest moment.
Mm.
Because there's going to be plenty of those low moments when you're trying to become a better you. You got to break down and rebuild constantly.
Hey, you're speaking facts right now, and I think of the I'm telling you, and it goes back to a couple conversations I've had with other people, and I've always wondered now when someone brought this to my attention is like, why do we ask kids what do they want to be
Hmm.
instead of who do you want to be? Because who you want to be is a lot different than what I want to be.
Yes.
What I want to be doesn't define me as a
Mm.
person. I could be whatever I want to be, but who I want to be speaks volumes. It speaks to my character. And it's crazy how you're talking about talking to your younger self, because I'm sitting here thinking, what would I say to my younger
Yeah.
self? And the biggest thing for me was just to have patience,
Mm.
right? And to understand that you kind of mentioned it is when you're given 110%, finding a way to recharge. But for me, it was always understand that my best is good every single day, whether that's
Yeah.
110% or if that's 30%. Whatever I can give that day is my best. And I have to understand that my best is different every single day.
Yes.
And I think people get lost in that because we want to be the best, we want to be perfect,
Mm.
but I might not have the energy to give 110%. I might only have 50% today,
Hmm.
but that's okay because that's my best. As long as I'm putting my best effort every single day, whether that is 100% or 30%,
Yeah.
it's still my best. And understanding that as a child is hard. And as an adolescent and a teenager, you don't really think of that because you think of, oh, I'm just being lazy. But in reality, I just don't have the energy to give. So it's really just finding ways to mentally reset is the hardest thing,
Yeah.
because for me, I've been the person to go, go, go
Uh-huh.
and brush everything aside that I don't focus on the now or myself. It's always what's next? What's
And you know
next?
what? And I'm gonna write that down. Not what you want to be, the who you want to be. I'm gonna write that down for my own personal notes. So when I give these presentations, so thank you, Austin. Um,
Hmm.
but you're absolutely right. I had someone named Debbie Walker. I'm gonna shout her out, and I'll make sure I send her this. She told me your best is different every day, and that's the honest truth. And I think that's another conversation we need to have with not just kids but young people as well. Like your best is different every day. Like just like how you said, if you make it through the day, or you're just even in this day, you're already winning. So just
Hmm.
we need I think we need to create a culture where we're not beating ourselves up. I think that we all have a why, we all have a passion, we all have a fire burning inside of us. But just because you have one bad day doesn't mean you have a bad life. Today just wasn't your day, but guess what?
Hmm.
We can try tomorrow.
Facts. And I think that's the hardest part is just we live in a society where people make their lives on social media look so sexy. It is honestly it's a highlight reel. I'm telling you, it is a highlight reel because everyone's gonna praise the good moments in life. Everyone's gonna praise the good things that are happening, but no one talks about the struggle. No one talks about the hard parts, and I think that's what makes it
Yeah,
hard. Is when you are going through that hard time and that struggle, you don't see it because people are just highlighting their life of every high moment they have, and not really understanding that I'm a human. I'm not perfect. I don't get everything right the first time. And I think that's why I have this platform and why I try to be transparent and I try to be honest and open with how I'm feeling and the things I'm going through because I'm not perfect and my life isn't perfect. But social media, I can make my life seem perfect.
Yeah,
That's the
y-
crazy
y-
thing. And that's the society we live in.
you're so right. Like, listen, sometimes the best advice I got from people was don't do what I did. And they'll tell me what they did. And I'm like, you, you, you did that? Like, you went through all that. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I
hmm
I forget the saying. I know we all heard it before. Like, I think someone said, uh, if everybody was to throw their problems in a pile, when you see everybody else's problems, you'll be quick to grab your problems back. And it
hmm
teaches you like
Facts.
yeah, you don't know what other people are
What
going
someone else is
through.
going through.
And
Yes.
sometimes when you hear it, it makes you feel better, like, oh, I'm normal, you know? But yeah,
I'm telling
shout out
you.
to being
And I think
normal.
that's a
Shout out to having problems. Shout out to not having a perfect life.
I'm telling you, because you that's why I tell people on this podcast is when we're sharing our stories and we talk about those struggles and those imperfections of
Yeah.
ourselves, you never know who you can be a survival guide for. And I think that's the biggest thing when we're telling our story is you don't know who can relate to you. And by telling your story, you could be that person that saves that person because they can relate to you. Not everyone's situation is the same.
Mhm.
We're not going to experience the same
Yeah.
things. There's always going to be those differences, but the relatability aspect, that's what's important. And that's why I have this podcast. That's why I have this platform because I want to be able to give people that voice and I want to amplify their voice so they can tell their story because we never know who is going to listen to this podcast. And I think that's the biggest thing is be authentic, be you, be real, and you never know who you can inspire.
Listen, and like I know that we've been talking a lot about the work that I've been doing with the youth, but I also do a lot of community work, and so like I'm in the suit, of course, it's Sunday, but some Bible studies, a lot of stuff I do in the community, you will see me in some Nike t-shirt, some Nike shorts, some Nike, some Jordans, some Adidas, some
My everyday
yeah,
attire.
everyday attire. I remember one time I went to go talk to She Academy, the young girls there, and I had on some Jordans, I had on some jeans and a t-shirt, and they're like, "Oh my God, he looks like a normal person." Like I am, like so. You got to be able to relate to people. Like if I'm out there doing community, I do a lot of community work. If I'm out there doing community work, I can't
Mhm,
show up in this. Like that creates that disconnect. Like he won't relate to us. And so,
mhm,
what I tell people is you have to be versatile. Don't get so sucked up into one spot because you don't know what effect or what capacity you have to put yourself in to reach people and help people. And so, yeah, Austin, I completely agree with you right now. In this day and age, we have to be relatable. Like that's the only way people going to hear you. Because I hear a lot of different podcasts. I hear a lot of people speaking on a lot of different platforms, and it's like I know that they have good intention, but I can't hear them
mhm.
because they sound so condescending. And then their
Yeah,
energy is condescending. So that's just my two
that's the
cents.
thing. I think relatability goes a long way, and no matter what you're doing, that's I tell people all the time. Networking is key,
Hmm.
and the only way you network with people is being able to relate with people and being able to connect with
Hmm.
people. And I think that's one of my strong suits. My therapist tells me all the time. She said, "Austin, you enjoy deep connection."
Mm.
And that's probably why like my circle is very small is because I thrive off of deep connections and having deep conversations and understanding how we can connect. And she's like, that's why you thrive at this podcast is because you get to have meaningful deep conversations. And it's not like a conversation where we're just talking about some BS. Like we're talking about real life stuff and things we go through and how it shapes us into who we are. And I think that's why I love it so much is because of that connection
Mm.
piece. And I don't know, I don't know why. That's just how I am. I love connecting with people. I love hearing their stories. I love helping them. And the only way I feel like I can help is by connecting.
Hey, it's a ministry in itself. It's a ministry in itself, man.
Facts.
And I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you're able to do that because I seen some of the videos, man. You got everybody with these big smiles. Look, I don't have a dog or a cat walking behind me, but if I had a dog or a cat walking behind me, I would definitely put them up in the camera. You know, it's a good thing we
I
didn't
got
record this at
Gabby
my
right
mom's
next
house.
to
My
me.
mom has 4 dogs right there right now. So one of them would have got curious and been on camera.
My dog is literally laying right next to
Oh,
me,
what kind of dog do you have?
sleeping. She is a mixture of a miniature Schnauzer and a Yorkie.
Oh,
Her name is Gabby. Come here,
hey
Gabs. I'll show
Gabby.
you her.
Look at the
This is Gabby,
doggy. Oh
guys.
my God, look at the doggy. Dog is so cute. Yeah.
Yes, she is a headache sometimes,
Hmm.
but I love her to death.
Yeah.
But I want to move on to my favorite segment of this entire podcast. I know we talked a little bit about just being true to ourselves and going through different things in life. But my question for you is just what is it? What is it? How have you been taking care of yourself mentally?
Hey, just like yourself, I enjoy receiving counseling and therapy. I make sure that I surround myself with positive people. I make sure that my family, and that's one thing that I was talking about earlier about they share their problems with me, so they make me feel normal. Um, you know, I think we're in a space right now where everybody wants to talk about mental health, but they're scared to talk about mental health. But it's time to end the silence. It's time to come out and start speaking because what we don't share is what we're hurting ourselves with. And I'm glad that I have family that makes me feel normal instead of making me feel crazy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have a wonderful fiance who understands what I'm trying to do. She supports my work. I have a wonderful church community, a wonderful family. And so I'm just happy. What I do is I hit the gym. If you check out my Facebook or my Instagram, I'm doing crazy things in the gym. I'm doing plyometrics. I'm doing jumps and burpees across the gym. I'm running 4 to
No,
7
thank
miles every time I walk in there.
you.
I'm bench pressing close to 400. I'm squatting over 400. I'm playing video games. I just got the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. I can't wait to play that. I read books. I read so many books. I read so many books on this book in particular, Lead Now. And so this is a good book for trying to, reach young people, student leaders or whatnot. I read a lot of books because books are a therapy in itself because it causes you to slow
Mm-hmm.
down, ignore the outside, and focus in between the pages. So I find myself doing a lot of things. Another thing that I did that I love doing is I stretch more. I haven't went to a yoga class yet, but I'm going to go to a yoga class. I stretch probably like
Stretching is important,
this.
and I don't do it.
Oh my God. I stretch 3 times a day. I'm gonna tell you something that not too many people know about me, but they're gonna know now. I stretch 3 times a day, 3 to 4 times a day. I stretch when I wake up, I stretch before I
Mm-hmm.
work out, and I stretch before I go to sleep because it causes me to breathe deeply, it causes me to relax. Of course you hear the pops and you're like, oh my God, yeah, I feel so much better in my lower back. But I do all these different things. I'm saying all these different things not to just ramble on, but to show people that whoever's listening that there are different ways to work on your mental health and your mental peace. There's not just one way because what happens sometimes is you go back to that one little trick and it ain't working today. So what you gonna do now? I'm very cognizant or conscious about how much I breathe and take the time to think
Mm-hmm.
about stuff before I react. And so it's just a combination of things, but I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that I have the gym. I'm thankful that I can stretch. I'm thankful that I do have faith in a higher being, a higher entity. I'm thankful that I do have the family and support system that I need. I'm thankful that I have a work family that understands, all these different components as well. And I'm very thankful for therapists, mental counselors, and people who stay on the front line to educate us on things we need to check on.
Hey, I think it's important to have multiple ways to
Mm-hmm.
feed your mental health, right? Because, like you said, if you just stick to one thing and that one thing ain't working, you're stuck. And I want to hit on one thing because you said a lot of people want to have a conversation about mental health, but they just don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because when you're talking about mental health, you have to have difficult
Yeah.
conversations. You have to be open and honest and be ready to have those tough conversations because I feel like that's the only way you heal. If you're not willing to cry and you're not willing to get to the deep stuff, you're not going to be able to move forward. And I think that's the thing people don't understand is healing is a
Mm-hmm.
process and it doesn't happen overnight, which people expect it to. And I always go back to my favorite verse that I like to go to when I'm reading the Bible is John 13:7.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you'll understand." And for me, it's always a constant reminder that whatever I'm going through in life, there's a reason why it's happening. And I might not understand in the moment. I might not understand tomorrow. I might understand in a week or a month from now. But eventually in life, when I look back, I'm going to be like, oh, this is why I went through what I went through. And when you look at life that way, it tells you like no matter what storm I'm facing, there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. It's just got to take it one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Some days are better than others. And I think that's the thing. Is some days are good, some days are bad, but it's how do I continue to get up and fight? Every day is a fight. That's the thing. You got to continue to fight for yourself and for other people. And I think being a helper, especially working in the community, sometimes I lose sight on the thing that truly matters the most,
Mm-hmm.
and that's myself. I think it's so hard to lose sight on your own mental health and how you're truly feeling because how can I help you if I can't help myself? Think of it. Think of it
Man,
like
you got me ready to hop.
that.
You
Like I gotta help me in order to help
you have
you
to fight for your
because
life.
if hmm
You have to fight for your
telling you because
life.
if I'm not doing that, I'm doing not only myself a disservice, but my community a
Mm-hmm.
disservice. The work I do a disservice because if I can't give you the best version of myself, and like I said, the best version of myself is different every single day. But as long as I'm putting my best effort every day, then I'm doing my job.
Right, right, right. Um, Goodness gracious, you said so much. I don't even want to add on. I just want to say, hey, I just want to pass the collection plate for Pastor Austin right now, y'all. I just want to, you have to fight for your life. I have like these little apps that give me like affirmations and motivation quotes throughout the
hmm
day, and they come right in time. Like they'll like as soon as I sit down, boom, like and I read it, I'm like, that's right, and I'll keep on moving. You and that continues to say there's a repertoire, there's a big wheelhouse of what you need to do. But one quote I remember it said was the best days of your life you will often have to fight for. You will often have to
hmm
fight through what seems like a bad morning and a bad day just to say at the end of the day, like this was the best day of my life. And if we let our emotions trick us, they will rob us of the best days that were meant for us to have. So I love that.
I'm telling you, emotional intelligence is something that needs to be taught in every school
Mm.
system, hands down, because I don't think people realize there are 22 different emotions.
Mm.
there there are more than just the basic emotions that people think of. Happy, sad, like there's so many more, right? But we get caught in thinking that there's only these handful of emotions that we can feel. But I took a class in college that was leading with emotional intelligence.
Right.
And ever since I took that class, it taught me so much, not only about myself, but the people around me, because I can understand when my emotions are being hijacked. I understand when I'm in a moment and I'm like, this is making me upset. It's
Yes.
making me angry. It's making me infuriated. Like, there's so many different adjectives and so many different ways I can tell you how I'm feeling. And that's why I have a policy when I'm working with kids. It's like, give me 24 hours because we're not going to talk about this on pure emotions. Because if we talk about this when you're mad, I'm mad, we're both upset, this conversation ain't going to go well.
Mm.
So let me marinate on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me sit on this, sleep on it, and then we can come back and have a conversation about it, because I understand when my emotions are being hijacked, and I'm not going to sit here and have a conversation simply out of spite in my
Wow.
emotions in this moment, because 12 hours from now I might not feel the same way I'm feeling right now.
Hmm.
So, like, I'm telling you, like, we did a Life 360 survey, and we had to ask 5 people, like 5 of our friends, 5 professional connections, 5 family members, and just different people, different groups in your life. And they ask the same 5 questions of like how they perceive you when you're upset or if something's not going your way.
Hmm.
And it's interesting to see how people view you when these things are happening. And I'm telling people, emotional intelligence, it should be taught in every aspect of life. Every school system should have
You're definitely going to. Now, you know what? Are there any books that
it.
you recommend? Like, I want us to. Let's touch on this for a
I'll have
second.
to. I'll. There are a few, but I have to look them up,
Yeah,
and I can send them to you, because
please.
there's a book that I read in that class that I was like, okay, it's just life changing, and when you can understand your emotions, it changes the trajectory of your life. I'm telling you that right now,
Hmm.
because I can go into work and tell my boss like, hey, I'm not feeling it today, so you might not get what you're expecting out of me, but I'm gonna get it done. And that's the thing, is like I recognize that I can say that to someone like, today's not a good day for me. Oh, today is great for me. But I'm also very open and transparent with how I'm feeling. And it's so, I think it's important for me as a man to be this way, because growing up in society, we're always told, don't show your emotions. That shows you a sign of weakness. And I feel like showing emotions and being vulnerable shows a lot of strength,
Yeah.
because it takes strength to show those
Yeah.
emotions. So it's kind of breaking that mold and showing other people that if I can do it, so can you.
Yeah. And it also shows people that they can trust you to understand them. Yeah.
Hmm. Connectability. There,
Yeah,
it all comes back
It,
to being able to connect.
like, man, like you got me so interested in emotional intelligence now. Now I need to do some more research on that. But yeah, like you got kind of got me knocked off track a little bit. Yeah, like you got to be able to do that. I've been noticing like some of these things, these quotes and sayings that people have been telling us for years, they're not actually true. Like how they say, don't let them see you
Mm-mm.
sweat. Sometimes people need to see you sweat. They need to see how hard you're working. Because if you keep on this stone face all the time, they're under the impression that you're not working hard. Sometimes people
Hmm.
need to see you vulnerable and cry because they need to see that, hey, this is a person that relates to us. This is someone that we can
They need to.
trust.
They need to see the real. There's so much realness in who
Yeah.
we are that we hide it so often, and it's like, why?
Hmm.
Be you. Be you. Be unique. Show people that you're not afraid to be yourself. I think that's the biggest
And
thing.
that is a different form of bravery that's not spoken about. Thank
Hmm.
you, Austin.
I'm telling you, man.
Hey,
Nah, I appreciate it, man. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know we had to reschedule once, so thank you for being flexible. um, but if anyone wants to continue having a conversation with you about anything that we might have talked about
yeah.
today, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, they can find me on my Facebook, LJ Gammage. They can also find me on IG. I got two different Instagrams. I got the underscore LG underscore experience, and then I got the underscore public health underscore preacher. So, um, yeah, I just, I try to make myself available. I try to make sure that I'm able to help people. If I can't help you, I'll connect you to someone who can help you with your problem or issue. But if I feel like, if you want to really connect with me and I feel like this is information that I possibly have, but like how you said, I just need 24 hours to research and craft up my stuff, we can do that. I'm all about helping people to become the better versions of themselves, including myself. Austin, thank you so much for this opportunity, man. I hope that we get another opportunity to talk just like this.
Of course, of course. And thank you. I think the biggest thing I took from that is if he don't have the answers, he's gonna find them for you. And I think that's the thing. I don't have all the answers, but I might know someone else who
That's
does,
right.
and I'm not afraid to pass you off to whoever I have in my network. And before we head out of here, I have one last question for
Yes,
you.
sir.
What is one positive piece of advice you would give someone today?
Look, the one piece of advice I would give somebody is keep on fighting. You would not have known, but today I had a rough day. I went through a lot today, but you know what? I was still excited about this podcast, and I feel like tomorrow's going to be better. Just because you have one bad day doesn't mean you have a bad life. It just means that you had some lessons to learn today. I myself, I'm not shy about saying that. I learned a lot today. I learned a lot about who's really my family. I learned about who's really my friends. I learned about what I need to improve in. And I learned to just, hey, just chalk it to the cane and keep on walking. I hope this message has been a blessing to everybody that's heard it. I hope that, you're able to continue to hop on this podcast, Austin, and take it higher and higher. And those are my words. Bow. I'm out of here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Mhm.
And thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. I'm going to put all of LaDarius's information in the description below. If you all happen to reach out to him, please just make sure you know on how you found him. It will be greatly appreciated. And do not forget, make sure you give us a follow on all social media platforms. It's at Ignyte Your Y. That's INGYTE, not with an I. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, stop what you're doing, hit that like button, subscribe, turn that notification bell on so you get notified every time we drop a new episode. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And always remember, find your purpose, ignite your why,